Sir Keir Starmer is preparing to unveil new Brexit legislation that could hand powers back to Brussels without a vote from MPs or the public. The Prime Minister is expected to announce the UK will pursue so-called dynamic alignment with the European Union as part of Labour's promised reset with Brussels. Downing Street says the move is designed to stabilise relations with the EU following an agreement on food standards reached last year. But critics warn the implications go much further. Dynamic alignment would bind the UK to future EU rules in areas covered by negotiations, automatically tracking changes made in Brussels. Brexiteers argue that would mark the first loss of UK sovereignty over standards since Britain formally left the EU. And despite the 2016 referendum, such an arrangement would remove the need for parliamentary or public consent on individual areas subject to alignment. Shadow Foreign Secretary Dame Priti Patel has branded the plans a Brexit betrayal, accusing Keir Starmer of trying to undo the democratic decision of the British people. Labour, however, rejects that claim. A Labour Party source insists the legislation would simply give the UK the power to share rules with the EU where it makes sense, arguing all international agreements involve shared standards. Ministers say they are confident in making the cause for trade-offs that deliver clear benefits for businesses and consumers, and accuse critics of selective memory over past Conservative U-turns on EU regulation. The government believes closer alignment with Brussels could help drive economic growth. Sir Keir began soft-launching the policy over the weekend, though he stopped short of committing to rejoining the EU's customs union. Speaking to the BBC, the Prime Minister said Britain should consider even closer alignment with the single market if it is in the national interest. He pointed to existing cooperation on energy and emissions, suggesting further steps could follow where the benefits are clear. Despite admitting he wants backed a customs union with the EU, Sir Keir now says a lot of water has gone under the bridge, warning such a move could jeopardise new UK trade deals, including the agreement with India. But Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has accused the Prime Minister of breaking faith with his own manifesto pledges on Europe. And this is not the first time Labour has faced accusations of backtracking on Brexit. Last month, the government confirmed the UK will rejoin the EU's Erasmus student exchange scheme at a cost of around $570 million for just 1 year of membership. Ministers say the move will benefit young people, allowing them to study, train and work across Europe from 2027. But critics argue the scheme does not offer value for money and accuse Labour of throwing billions of pounds of taxpayers' money at Brussels. Sir Keir Starmer now faces his first major Brexit test on January the 16th, when pro-EU Labour MPs are expected to back a bill calling for the UK to rejoin the EU's customs union. For the Prime Minister, the battle over Britain's relationship with Brussels is only just beginning.
Your personal data could be exposed right now without you even knowing it. And if you want it removed, use incogni.com/GB News in the description now and get 60% off an annual plan on us. Incogni reach out to the data brokers on your behalf and request that your information be deleted from their databases. And they'll keep sending removal requests to make sure your data stays gone. Sometimes your information ends up on strange, obscure websites that automated tools just can't reach. And that's why Incogni just launched their unlimited plan with a feature called Custom Removals. With this, you can submit any link where your personal information appears, literally paste in the URL, and their privacy team will investigate and work to get it removed. And getting started is super easy. Hit the link in the description, create an Incogni account, and tell them whose data you want removed. Grant them permission to work on your behalf, and then all you've got to do is sit back and relax. They'll keep you updated along the way. Incogni is totally risk-free for 30 days. If you try it, it's not for you, you'll get a full refund. So take back control of your personal data today with Incogni. Use our code GBNews at checkout via the link in the description, and you'll get 60% off an annual plan.
So we're asking, is it time to reset our relationship with Europe? Should we even continue to support Zelensky? Well, joining us now is the leader of the Conservative Party, Mrs. Kemi Badenoch. Mrs. Badenoch, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Now, of course, when
Good morning. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too. When Putin invaded Ukraine back in 2022, it was the Conservative Prime Minister at the time, Boris Johnson, who led the charge for European support of Ukraine. But 6 years later, things are not looking great for the Ukrainians, and many people are starting to question whether continued funding of Ukraine is the right thing to do. What do you think?
It is absolutely the right thing to do. Let's be honest, the world is changing and it's becoming increasingly dangerous. If Russia wins this war in Ukraine, it's not going to stop there. It's going to keep going. We need to make sure that we do everything to project strength. And what's been happening over many decades is that we've been spending the peace dividend from the Cold War, from World War II. Those days are over. Let's start spending more on our defense. Countries that look strong, that speak softly perhaps, but carry a big stick, or we'll be in a better place. That's what I want UK policy to be. Right now, I'm not quite sure what Keir Starmer thinks.
But the reality of European policy over the last 4 years is that the Ukrainians have been sent 190 billion euros of aid. They are in a worse position than in 2022. No NATO leader wants to put troops on the ground in Ukraine. Therefore, the Ukrainians can't win. Would we not have actually been better negotiating 4 years ago rather than throwing enough money at the Ukrainians to allow them to keep going, but not enough to win?
This is an existential battle. Who are our enemies? Russia, which tried to kill people on UK soil. Iran, we can't just say, let them do whatever they like, we'll keep our money, because they will keep getting stronger, we'll get weaker, and then we won't be in a position to do anything. So our support for Ukraine, certainly on the Conservative side, is 100%.
Can I ask you, Mrs. Badenoch, while the Prime Minister is in Paris today with all those EU leaders, are you concerned that he's going to use that time not so much to talk about Ukraine, but to deepen our links to the European Union ever more? The Guardian is reporting today that there could be a vote in the Commons later this year on getting further and further and further back into bed with the European Union. Brexit by the back door?
Well, let's do what we can to make sure we maintain a good relationship with the countries that are next to us, in Europe most of all. But that doesn't mean following all their rules and being run by them. That was the reason why we left in 2016. And what this shows, if it is true, is that Keir Starmer's got no ideas for what to do with the country. And so he's just taking us backwards. No vision for the future, no economic plan. I mean, I'm on a high street today, letting them know that we back business. What's Labour doing? Increasing business rates. They wouldn't even let the Labour MPs turn up in the pubs. He's got no economic plan. He's got no defence plan. Got no foreign policy plan. That's what worries me. And what he's discussing with about in terms of going back into the EU is the least of our problems if he continues to damage our economy.
It was, of course, the Conservatives that delivered Brexit, that tortuous time, I'm sure you and I both remember well, when we didn't know whether or not we'd end up with a deal with the EU. We did have a deal with the EU, but some would argue that far too much of EU law remains on our statute. If you became Prime Minister, would you actually look again at some of the laws that we still have that came from the EU and look at how we can become even more independent than we already are?
So, as you know, I was a former trade secretary, and the deal-making continues. Situations change, you need new laws, you need to remove old laws. We need to start doing what is in our national interest. Some of those laws we kept were things that we put in place. There are others which we need to remove. We need to explain why. We need to show what needs to be done as an alternative. But the sunset clause, which we used in order to get to those laws off the books, expires this year. Labour has not taken anything off the books. I took about 80% of those laws out of the UK statute book. I removed the supremacy of the European Court of Justice. I'm very proud of that. But there is always more to do. That's why government it never finishes its job. Right now, Labour is not even starting.
And, of course, there are still issues, aren't there? If you were in Northern Ireland, Mrs. Badenoch, they still feel they're effectively a vassal of the European Union. That's still a problem, isn't it?
Well, we need to make sure that we do right by Northern Ireland. I'm a unionist. The situation there is more complex than it is for other nations in the UK. But that's what Conservatives always worked on, making sure that we keep Ireland in the United Kingdom and make sure that whatever we do with the EU is best for the UK and Northern Ireland at the same time as well. Now, what the specifics of that will be as time goes on remain to be discussed. It depends. But we have to make sure that Northern Ireland knows that the UK government is fully on its side.
Can we ask you one specific aspect of what's happening in Venezuela? It's been widely reported that a number of American planes are flying into RAF bases as we speak, and that potentially they could be involved in perhaps detaining or apprehending a rogue Venezuelan oil tanker. Are you relaxed or ease with the idea that Britain could in some way militarily, at least by allowing its bases to be used by American aircraft to assist Donald Trump's operation against Maduro?
Well, we know that the UK and the US collaborate and cooperate quite often against criminal activity. We've seen that in the Middle East. So this is something that certainly from a precedent perspective is not new. But I don't know the full details to give much more information than that. What I want to see is what we're doing for our country. What is our plan? We're just sort of, watching Keir Starmer looking outside in. He hasn't spoken to President Trump. He's having a meeting with other EU leaders today. Many of them don't necessarily know what is happening either. That's not where the UK used to be. When the US invaded Grenada, Margaret Thatcher knew beforehand. She was on the phone with President Reagan immediately after. What's Keir Starmer doing?
Can we ask you one last thing, just to end on a cheery note for you? There's a poll today shows that that the Tory party, according to YouGov, has moved ahead of the Labour Party. Is it a rogue poll, or do you think it is a direction of travel for the Tory party under your leadership?
Well, I just want people to know that 18 months ago, we had a historic defeat for my party. I was elected to fix that, and I hope that people can see that I'm acknowledging the mistakes we made. I'm not here to say everything we did was perfect, but we have a new plan. We have new policies. We have junked some of the bad things that we did, like our plans for net zero. We said we're going to leave the ECHR. It's the only way to make sure we can control our borders, and there's a lot more to come. We want to abolish stamp duty. We want to abolish business rates for high streets like this one. That's what's going to help get the country growing. And if polls are reflecting that, that's good. There's still a long way to go. I'm not complacent, but the general election is not tomorrow. We've still got another 3 years of Labour. We know they're going to leave a big mess, and there is only one party that has always cleaned up Labour's mess, and that's the Conservative Party.
Kemi Badenoch, thank you so much